This is Patrick with WSOU 89.5 here with the band Tetrarch after their set at Starland Ballroom opening for Atreyu. How you guys doing?
Good. How you doing, man? Thank you for having us.
All right, so first thing I wanted to ask you, from what I've read about you guys, it seems that what you call the outsider or misfit mentality is really at the core of your music. How do you think a lot of those ideas come out in your sound?
Oh, yeah, I mean, growing up in Atlanta, we always, I met Diamond when we were like 12 years old, and we started this band when we were right around that age. And, we went to a small private school in Atlanta where we were the only people that listened to metal, us and our very original drummer, Tyler. So we've always kind of like stuck to each other and grown together as people. And then that even as we got into playing shows, continued in even just the local scene in Atlanta. We were always the band that no other bands wanted to hang out with, like not for any reason other than we just kind of stuck to ourselves, I guess. But yeah, we've always kind of felt like we're kind of on our own, and we just always, work hard with that.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things. Actually, I was talking to Matt from Trivium, and he kind of said the same thing of being like, he said we've never been like a band's band. He was like, we've never had like a lot of band friends or a lot of bands shout us out or like part of any scene or anything like that. That's kind of like how we are as well. Like we've never been like a band's band, you won't see a lot of bands, like younger bands, like talk about Tetrarch or anything like that. So we've always just kind of been like the underdog a little bit. We kind of look at ourselves like the underdog. I know we were in the studio, like our producer was laughing at us because he's like, "You're not the underdog anymore. Stop saying that." But like, it's just the mentality we've kind of always had, and so it just kind of comes out in our music too. I think,
Yeah. So I remember you said on stage that some of you met when you were as young as like 12 years old. Is that right?
Yeah, I met Diamond in like the 7th grade, like an English class or something like that, and we were, like I said, the only two that listened to metal, so we just like not instantly clicked in a band setting, but no. There's a kind of funny story behind that, because when me and Diamond became friends, I was jamming with a friend of ours, and Diamond really wanted to play with us, and I stupidly was like, I don't want a girl in the band. And obviously quickly that changed, and I'm so happy for it, because it's been such an amazing friendship and an amazing journey with the band.
And what kinds of music were you guys into at that point? What were you playing?
It was interesting. I had just got into, I was starting to get into rock and metal at the time. I think my introduction to rock was Nirvana. So I think at the same time, the first two CDs I bought was like Nirvana's Greatest Hits and Toxicity, System of a Down. And then from there, like, I was kind of always the heavier head. A lot of people think, like, he was probably the heavy one that got me into it. But it was always, like, I went straight to, Metallica and Megadeth and Pantera. And, like, that's the stuff I was listening to. And I know he was kind of into a little bit, like, softer stuff.
Yeah, I was, like, Green Day was, like, my favorite band. Metallica I love, too, but it was, like, Green Day and Pearl Jam and just kind of different stuff like that.
Yeah.
What about you guys? What did you grow up listening to?
I didn't really grow up listening to a lot of music in my home. My mom would take me to 90s country concerts. That's what she was into. But I got into metal and rock when I was in high school. And so I liked a lot of classic rock. I didn't have access to a lot of things, so I would just turn on the radio, and that's what I heard. So, but I got into, like, AC/DC and then Metallica, and I liked the big four: Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax, Pantera, and it just kind of grew from there.
What about from a drummer's point of view?
Oh yeah, same metal, like heavy music, Pantera, like Metallica, Slipknot. Plus, like, I'm from Venezuela, so that's actually the only bands that you get to listen to. So that's why those are my favorites.
Yeah. So, how did you guys take advantage of the past year to make this killer album while the entire music world was sort of shaken up?
Yeah, what was kind of crazy is we actually finished our record in February of 2020. So the record was finished. we were basically planning on like the record coming out summer 2020. But I think right after we finished shooting our first music video for the first single, which was I'm Not Right at the time, everything started shutting down. Like LA shut everything down, and we were like, no one really knew how to like deal with that because we're like, what's going on? You know, no one's been through a pandemic unless you're like 90, you know. So it was like we didn't really know what we were doing, and everybody's like, we were like, okay, let's sit on this for a minute and kind of see, because the album was done, everything was finished, and then we kind of talked it out amongst each other, with each other, and we were kind of like, you know what, people are at home, it might be cool for us to just maybe start putting out singles. People are there to listen to it, and we don't have like a lot of traffic to compete with. Like a lot of people aren't going to be putting out albums right now. We don't have to compete with, you know, a surprise Metallica album or something that's going to just pop up out of nowhere. So like, I think it helped us a lot. Just we grew more than any other year during this pandemic, which is crazy. Just like putting out I'm Not Right, and I think that song carried us. Like usually like a metal single, it'll carry you like 2 months. That song carried us like probably 10 months. Just like when we would think it was done, it kept going. Like stations would start picking it, and it ended up like crossing over to, you know, like to mainstream radio, from Liquid Metal to Octane to you guys to just everything, you know, everyone started kind of picking it up. So then after seeing that, we were kind of like, dude, let's like put out singles. Let's get the most out of them. Let's promote them as good as we can. You know, just like trying to put as much quality and time into every little thing, as opposed to, I think, if the whole world was open like normal, you'd be like rushing through everything. Like, okay, let's get this all out so we can get on the road.
Because we were going to release that way earlier than what we did.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
We released it in like October.
We were going to release it like around the late summer, the album, which didn't end up coming out until like a year after that. You know what I'm saying? Or 8 months or whatever. So
I think it was really like she said, it was that song I'm Not Right what really kind of carried us for like that 8 months. And I know like you guys slammed that song like crazy.
Yeah.
And we're playing it for months and months and months and months. And that kind of helped us. Like she said, we didn't have to rush anything out. We could kind of see how things were playing out. And then we, after that song, we joined up with Napalm Records and got the rest of the album kind of cycled going. So thank you guys.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny. I've talked to a lot of bands who are all about the singles because they say that's where the best creativity comes out. You know, if they focus on an album, then your focuses are kind of all scattered. Do you think the fact that you guys waited and put a lot more work into I'm Not Right is what made the song carry you guys for so long?
It's interesting. Like when we started writing the album and when we were thinking about putting it out, we constantly told ourselves we didn't really want any filler songs on the album. So we were like, let's try to make this an album full of singles, you know, whether that's like a heavy single or a mainstream single. Either way, let's make them strong songs that we could, if we wanted to put a music video and put, you know, a lot of time and effort behind each and every single song on the album, we could, and they would do well. So that was kind of like our mindset. So when we put out I'm Not Right, we were really able to like experiment with that and see how it did, and it did super well. We saw like how good it could do if we really just spent time focusing on each single instead of like putting it out and just being like, okay, it's out there. And it did well, so we're happy about it.
Yeah, that's great. So we already talked about your influences growing up, but you know, while I listened to the album and while I heard you guys playing, I heard a lot of new metal, a lot of Korn, Seven Dust type stuff, but I also heard a lot of faster, heavier metalcore sort of things. Where would you say a lot of your influence comes from now when you're writing songs like I'm Not Right or making this album in the studio? Where do you draw a lot of inspiration from?
I mean, a lot of different places, I think, you know, like we've definitely progressed sound-wise as a band since we started. I mean, like when we started as kids, we were like a straight-up thrash metal band, like literally Kill 'Em All, like Peace Sells thrash metal band, like 5-minute solo sections, like as fast as you can. And then we kind of progressed to like a metalcore, and then we've kind of come into our own with where we are now. But I think having like all those different influences, like we have everything from Lamb of God and Gojira to Metallica to his favorite band's Green Day, you know, like we have all these different influences, and I think it helps a lot because, you know, we can pull from different things and we don't get stuck in like in a box, or we don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, so.
And I think something that was kind of important for us and kind of a shift in the band was when we did start to realize that we could pull influences from everywhere. I mean, like she said, we were trying to thrash out and write as fast of a song as we can all the time. And even, like she said, we kind of started doing some like metalcore stuff. And then we realized we love all genres of heavy music. Let's put that all together and see what we can come up with. And our album before this one, our debut album, Freak, was kind of the little mini experiment for that. You know, we had songs like Audrey, Pull the Trigger, which were like really fast and crazy songs, but then we experimented with some more groove-based songs and some heavier stuff, and I think that kind of allowed us to say, okay, that experiment kind of works. Now let's make a full album of This Is Tetrarch and just combine everything we love. So I think because we are from so all over the place with our influences, it really helps kind of make one sound for us in a way.
How does the rhythm section, the drum and bass, where do you guys draw your influences from on stage in the studio?
Well, as far as stage presence, big Metallica fan, so obviously Jason Newsted, that guy was, you know, kind of what I had aspired to be, something like that. As far as playing-wise, I don't know, I listen to a lot of different kind of music, so what I'm playing a lot is a mirror of what they're playing, but I like to throw in a little flair, or like the part from Stitch Me Up, I was listening to Rage Against the Machine, and like there's the riff, and then the guitar part, and then there's like a little bass, what do you call that, like not an answer back, but like a fill thing, yeah. And that was kind of taken from something like that.
You'll catch him listening to like Motown and stuff too on driving around when we used to be touring in the van.
Yeah.
He'd used to be jamming anything that was bass heavy.
Muse.
Yeah.
Well, Primus, who does Primus?
Yeah, I'm not ashamed to say I like Primus, yeah.
Yep.
I don't aspire to be like just a metal, or like a good metal player. I want to be a good player, and in general.
Yeah.
And I can bring that back to this band.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed during the show, you in particular, you got a really fat foot. I mean, the rhythm section was very, very strong. Where do you think a lot of your rhythmic influences come in? Because it's definitely different for a drummer.
Yeah, I have like different like favorite drummers. Like I've listened to like Mike Portnoy, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like I have a lot of stuff from him, but also like a lot of stuff from like Lars, and like how entertaining it's like to watch him play, and like Joey Jordison, and like it's like a mix, and I just try to make myself, but I just try to be like a entertainer, so like entertain people. I love when people tell me that I'm fun to watch. Yeah. You know, that's the goal. You know, I want to be the biggest metal drummer, but I want to be able to like entertain all the people. So.
Yeah, that's really, like, they both kind of hit on that same point. It's like we all, you know, we want to be great players, and it's important for us to be tight and good at our instruments, but we also, like, we want to be entertainers, too, and our favorite bands and some of the biggest bands in the world, from the Rolling Stones to Metallica to U2 or whatever, they're great entertainers on stage. People love to watch them. You know, they're not just up there playing for themselves. And so that's a big one for us. Just like he mentioned Jason Newsted, or he mentioned Joey Jordison. It's like, those are great players, like amazing players at their instrument, but like they're really fun to watch too, you know. And I think like we all kind of aspire to be that.
Yeah, I remember Rick Rubin did an interview on BBC Radio talking about System of a Down and how he got to work with them. He said the first time he saw System of a Down in LA, he just laughed the whole time because they were just so much fun, but like in a good way, because they were just so much fun to watch. And he said that interview reminded me too of what you were saying on stage about how you draw influences from so many different places, and what you said just now, you're not really a band's band. And he said the same thing about System of a Down, how hardly any radio stations wanted to play them because they were different, and then a year later they were the biggest band in the world. Do you think that sort of mentality of being different really fuels your guys' passion in your performance?
You know, I'm going to say, like, it's weird, but I feel like us being, like not a band's band, or maybe, like, kind of, like, I wouldn't call us outcast. That might be dramatic, you know, but just, like, kind of we stick to ourselves. I think it's kind of been a little bit of a blessing in disguise for us. And I know it's really weird to say, but I think we've always maintained like a clear vision of the type of band we want to be without outside, like, you know, things persuading us one way or another. We've had to stay like mentally strong. And I think it really helps us, like, we can, like, at our core be one and just focus on the prize head first, you know. And I don't know, I always looked at it like, even though it's like weird, you know, when you're coming up, you're like, man, I can't wait to be friends with all my favorite bands. And now we're like, you know, like, I mean, it would be awesome, you know. We love talking to other bands, hanging out with other bands and stuff. And we have band friends, of course. But, like, it just has really helped us to, like, because we don't have all that, we're not like big partiers, we don't go party all the time and stuff like that. I think it's kind of helped us to continue like an upward trajectory, you know what I'm saying? I know it's kind of weird, but I look at it like that anyways. I don't know, maybe it's my way of making myself feel better. We don't have friends.
also too, you know, since we don't have that many outside influences from other bands, it can be encouraging, but can also be discouraging, because then they're like, oh, that's what you're trying to do? We can't do that. So what do you think, what makes you think you can do that?
Yeah, and it's really easy to, like, I think it's easy to follow trends and be behind trends if you're always trying to play catch up. So I think as a band, it's fun to be able to just, like you said, stay laser focused on what we want to do, and we want to live and die by our decisions and the songs that we write and what we put out there. Like, we want it to be, this is Tetrarch, you know. Yeah. Whether people love it or they hate it, this is us. And I think that's always kind of going to be our thing.
Yeah, I know that was a big theme throughout your show, at least from what you were screaming into the mic. I also love how you told the story about how, you know, you used to be freezing in a van playing to just the bartenders. Now you're in this totally fancy tour bus and you're opening for Atreyu. I mean, how does that feel to have come all this way?
I mean, it's really cool because we say it a lot, but I think we really appreciate like every step of the journey, because we had to go through every step of the journey. Like he said, just from being in a van, like in Montana in the middle of winter, like it's like 5 degrees. We don't have heat.
Where there's no heat, and you'll be driving and you'll turn on the AC. And the only way you can feel warmer is when you turn off the AC.
Yeah.
And sadly, that is a thing. Yeah. And so, having said that, it's really cool. Like, we can be in this bus now, and like, where we hear a lot of bands will be in a bus still complaining. We're like, dude, this is sick. We have nothing to complain about, because we went through every other step. And we always told ourselves, like, okay, this is a means to an end, and we would laugh through everything. So, like, to actually be here and to be able to look back and be like, you know, we were strong, like, none of us we never gave up. I never had to worry about these guys giving up. And to be here and looking back at that and know, like, we were right. We had a very strong attitude about it. It's really rewarding, you know, in every aspect, not just the bus, but, you know, touring with Atreyu and all that kind of stuff. So it's really cool.
That's awesome. So this next part of the interview might be more for the gear heads, but I wanted to talk to you about your guys' gear, especially you, Diamond, because I heard a lot of...
I'll probably be explaining her gear for her.
Well, because I heard a lot of Tom Morello-esque sort of stuff, and he's just the absolute king of the pedal board. A lot of whammy stuff, a lot of flange, sort of freak on a leash type thing. How do you get I know I've said this 1,000 times, but how do you get your influence in terms of the effects you use and the kind of sounds that you want to hear?
Honestly, I think mine came from probably like my love of Korn. You know, like a lot of people say to me like, "Oh, it sounds a lot like Tom Morello," and I'm gonna be honest with you, I like Rage, but I was never like a huge Rage fan. You know, like Tom Morello's sick, like he does some really cool things, but he wasn't somebody I listened to a lot. So I think what was interesting about it is it came from when we were bringing in different influences and like we were writing new choruses and stuff. I really wanted to like mess with layering like creepy sounds, kind of like you would hear on like Korn's Issues album or something like that. Like I wanted to add in those textural things. But then when we got to the point where we were writing like the solos for the album, that stuff just kind of kept going. Like it was all over the record, and we're just like, let's make this weird, you know? So we started adding like the whammies and all that kind of stuff to the solos too. But it kind of just started as just like textural stuff, you know, like, oh, that makes it sound dark. And I can literally sit there, like, I might not be the most like technically sound gearhead, but like I love to sit there and tinker with effects. Like I will just turn knobs. Like it might not even be like the correct thing to do. I will just turn knobs for hours until I get something that sounds cool.
Yeah.
And that's basically what I did for a lot of stuff on the record. And yeah, it kind of just kept going, even into the leads, like the solo, because like I know we had a lot of that. You know, we have a strong nu metal influence, so it's like a lot of nu metal bands didn't have lead guitar players that played solo. So it was like when we came to writing the solos, it was like, man, a traditional solo sounds weird on this. Like it sounds like a dad rock solo, you know, like a Korn song. It was like all weird. So we were like, how can we make this more fitting? And by doing that, we ended up just like making everything kind of weird and adding weird sound and stuff. So just kind of gradually got to that point.
Yeah. I say, what are your influences so many times because you can really hear pretty much everything in your guys' music. You know, if you like nu metal, this is the band for you. If you're a big metalcore, heavy, intense person, it's also the band for you. If you like to dance, if you like to groove, then Tetrarch is the band for you. So definitely make sure you check out Tetrarch. Check out the new album, Unstable, out now, Spotify, Apple Music. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much,
Of course,
you guys.
yeah.
We love blasting you guys and the loudest rock in Jersey and the 5 boroughs. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for having us, man. You
thank you
guys
so
have been
much.
awesome. Appreciate it.
All right. This is Patrick with WSOU 89.5.